The year after is just as much reflection. You'll learn just as much from it as you will the year there.
Yeah.
So if we
keep going.
If we can go into
yeah.
post-exchange, I think why it's so hard for people to come back, and like I was telling Jack the other night, at least this is what I think, is everyone changes so much on exchange, and they come back to this place that has stayed exactly the same, and they're angry and irritated, and they want to cry. They're not really sad, but they just feel like they need to cry, and they'll drive around their town. Like I drove around Tulare, and I was like, it's ugly here, the people suck, like it's hot, like, why am I here? Coming home is rough, and I know you don't agree with me on this, but I found solace in the fact that I was so devastated about coming home because I had a great exchange.
Yeah.
Like I found comfort knowing that that's the reason why it was hard for me to come home.
Yeah, I think like being a Rotex, when I entered the program, I already had ideas that I wanted to be a Rotex. And so like for me, there was like, it's okay. I will get that feeling again of being like surrounded by exchange students. And for me, that was like a huge thing because like it's so hard to leave, especially the other inbounds, and be like, I'll never feel like this again. So like coming back and being a Rotex is like, oh, I can get a little taste of that again.
Is what it's more painful.
It is, but I can't let it go.
You just have to sit.
What's more painful? You lost me on that.
It's painful, as you're saying. Even being here, this is my first time at a Rotary event since December. It's just seeing like, wow, this is where I was. This is what I was thinking 2 years ago.
Oh, when you look in the mirror?
Yeah, I was like, I was in their shoes 2 years ago, and it puts you through all the different things you went through on exchange, and I'm like, well, I've really adjusted back to life here, to the point where I don't think about it anymore. And when I do think about it, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
To see.
And it's frustrating.
It's frustrating to see what you went through.
Yeah, and it's also frustrating to kind of watch the outbounds. Like, I'm worried about getting to the airport. I'm worried about what I'm gonna eat. When it's like, you just wish you could connect your brain to theirs so you can just get a glimpse of that's literally not what you should be worried about at all. Like,
that's the least of your problems.
I don't know. I definitely think I'll probably have the same answers they have in a year, but right now I'm in this stage of like anger and negativity and like, I don't know. I was telling Braden this too, like in the midst of all that, like you can still see all the good things. Like, yeah, I'm sad and like don't know how to adjust back here, and like you kind of feel like you had this mold before you left home that you fit really nicely into, and like it's not that the mold changed, but like there's just little pieces of you that like don't fit in it anymore, and like and like I know that that's like expected, but like I don't know how to explain it. As much as you're gonna say it to somebody, they're never gonna know what it feels like until they go through it.
Well, yeah, and you know it's interesting you mentioned that because I remember I had a similar conversation with this lady that we wanted to send to an overseas location to work, and she was having a hard time understanding. We were planning on sending her overseas, but we had a stateside kind of like a training scenario that was going to go on, and we were going to send her on that first, and she kept giving us pushback. And so finally it's like I just sat there and I said, okay, let me make sure I got this right. And she goes, what? And I said, okay, I'm a guy. She's like, okay, I'll play your silly game, you're a guy. And it's like, no, which means I will never be able to get pregnant. And now she's like looking at me, it's like, where the hell is this guy going? Right? And I said, so, and here's my point. You can use all the words that you have available. You can use video, you can use audio, you can even introduce the sense of smell to what goes on during birth, but I will never fully understand it and appreciate it because I will never, ever go through it. I just won't get it. And until you go through it, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
You just don't.
It sucks. And the part that sucks the most that I've been talking to Braden and Mel and like anybody this weekend about is like, as much as everybody feels the same things, it is all so personal because like my things come from a really close relationship with my friends in Finland, and yours came from a really close relationship with your inbound friends, and like just love there, and like people have host families or hobbies or like all of it stems from different places, so there's no answer to it. But like it's just crazy to come home and like realize how much you've changed and like just see this controlled environment of Fresno and like you being plunged back into it. And like I have letters that people wrote me from before my exchange and after my exchange, and like if the name was erased, they would be two different girls, like two completely different people. I read these things and I'm like, how is this a real thing that's happened? And like I'm just in this stage of like haze and trance, and like I don't know what year it is. I keep talking to my friends like, yeah, you remember when we graduated a couple months ago? And they're like, Jackie, it's been a year. And I'm like, huh, okay, so.
Yeah, like you can explain and give examples, but there's never gonna be a moment where they truly get everything that they're gonna go through before they leave.
But even though you can't explain to anyone, and I like the fact that I have this thing that's just
absolutely,
and I know in my head what it was and what it is, and I like that.
See, like I can't wait to get strong enough to where like I feel that same way, but right now I'm still at this level of like I want to share and just.
And you've got nobody to talk to.
Yeah, you're still at the spewing part.
And you labor at trying to explain things to them, and no matter how hard you try, they don't get it.
Exactly.
So you can't even really explain it to other exchange students.
Seriously,
because they have their own experiences.
Yeah, and like it's like your Hungarian experience, or like just any experience. You're like, oh, in Germany when we used to do this, like I would have no idea. You guys don't know what it's like to go outside after a sauna and feel snow crunch under your feet. Like that's not. You get these feelings in your country that are like. So personal and so lovely.
No, I get it 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt. I lived in England for like 4.5 years, and it's funny that they won't send U.S. students to English speaking. I think that's kind of ridiculous, kind of retarded, and I'll tell you why. Well, I think it was Winston Churchill that once said that America and England are two countries that are divided by a common language. Just because we use the same words doesn't mean we use the same phrasing. I was talking with a lady in England, and I told her one day, we're just talking about whatever, and it's like, so I'm at work, and I'm just like, man, I was pissed off. I was just pissed. She goes, you were pissed? I said, yeah, I was pissed. And we kept going back and forth. She goes, you work on airplanes, right? And I said, yeah. And she goes, and you were drunk? It's like, no, I was mad. But the word pissed, we say, we say, if somebody's knocked up here in the States, it means they're pregnant. You go knock somebody up over in England, you're knocking on your door to see if they're home. You ring them on the telly, you knock them up at home.
Oh yeah, the culture's it's like
the culture is so different that I kind of have a little bit of an issue about why not, because believe me, England, Ireland, Scotland, okay, they use the same words, but the terminology, the phrasing, people will be just as scared there as you were in Hungary. You went to Finland, right? Germany. And you were in Denmark, right? They'll be just as scared in England, guaranteed, because, oh my God, it's like the cars are smaller, and the cab drivers and bus drivers are just like crazy. They're nuts there. And, if you like this controlled environment here, London will shock you out of that real quick.
I know some districts do have exchanges with English-speaking countries, but they're huge districts.
And I think some of them have summer exchanges, if I'm not wrong, like 3-month things where you could go to Australia or something like that. But like, it's also just the fact that going on exchange, and I'm sure you guys have exactly similar stories of like inbounds that you had met that had to fight like 50 or 60 different kids for their spot on exchange.
Exactly.
And the fact that I just came to my interview, there was 13 countries and there was 13 of us.
Yeah, see, it didn't work out this time around. There were actually more kids than there were exchange slots available, because it's all dependent on 2 countries doing the exchange. So with this year, for whatever reason, it didn't work out.
But what I'm saying is like, we don't even have these kids applying that want to go. So it's...
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that, to be honest with you, I would like to see more people apply for it. I think it's a great program. I think it's worthwhile. Listening to what you said, if there's one thing that I've heard more than anything, it's just this: you grow in unimaginable ways that are going to carry you for the remainder of your life. Like especially what you said, just drawing from it, right? That it's like, so I go over there and I think I'm all that in a bag of donuts, and it's like, nah, no. And it sounded like that 4 months that you mentioned yesterday was probably your time of kind of embracing that suck. That it's like, I really am not as good as I thought I was.
No, it was like the second day when I took a bus to the top of the country on accident. I had no idea how to get home.
And it's things like that. And like
Yeah.
you sit there and you realize that like you are having that experience when some adults don't have it until they're 50, 60, 70. Like people with full-blown careers still haven't had that
I gotta tell you, and
self-actualization.
I gotta tell you this too, it's amazing because I was gone for like 29 years and came back here to the Central Valley where I was raised. And I came back here because of my parents. I mean, let's face it, I'm old, they're older than me, and one by one, they're gonna make their hasty departure. So that's what brought me back here. I ran into one guy that I went to school with. He's not changed a bit.
So
Not a bit. And I was feeling the exact same way. It's like, dude. And I'm just sitting here baffled. It's like, I don't even get it. How can you not change?
You've had to. Yeah, I feel like you have to try to not change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, you don't have to try that much. You just have to stay right where you're at, go nowhere, do nothing,
but-
and just stay immersed in this little microcosm of a culture and never even get out and get away. And I think it's huge that Rotary has given each one of you, the young men and women there, that opportunity to discover that the microcosm you live in right here, the microculture that you live in right here is so small. And there's so much more that you can learn that is going to grow your life exponentially, at least in my opinion.
But like, what you go first?
And when you get back, everything is easier. Like I mentioned this
There you
yesterday,
go.
but like
Yeah.
It's so funny.
yeah, like when I went to my university orientation, they were like, I know this is the first time you've ever been away from your parents. And I was like, what? This is easy. This is in English. I can do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like playing off what you were saying, we all know how important youth exchange was to every one of us and will be to every kid that ever goes out and every kid that comes back and hosts families and everything. But I don't even think that Rotarians
No, they don't.
understand.
No, because they've not gone.
And that's what kind of irritates me. And like even speaking at my club, I'm like, yeah, I get that you guys will all throw $5 at me if I ask really nicely and I'm saying like, hey, this is what I want to do, but like you need to sit down and realize that like you changed somebody's life. Like it's not just you eating lunch on Fridays.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and like I feel like they don't think about it. They like have all these other programs and things going on and they're kind of not overlooking it. They still support it and I still feel supported by them, but I want them to reap all the benefits that I'm getting from their program.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've accepted the fact that they're not going to understand, like you said.
Yeah.
They'll never understand. But when people ask, like just going back to like the first question, and people ask like, what is Rotary? Of course, it's a service organization, but Rotary Youth Exchange especially, like, all I can say really is it's a program that promotes global understanding. That's the only thing I can.
And here's the funny thing about it. I was talking with Wendy, and I've heard repeatedly this one question. So what's the return on investment? And your answer, no. Your answer is, what did you just say? Come on, dig it in your brain.
Global understanding.
There you go. There's your return on investment right there.
What's the-
But the funny thing about it is that sometimes you don't always, sometimes when you make the investment, you're not necessarily the one that reaps the benefits.
Exactly.
You make, this is the fine art, it's the art of the give. You make the investment in somebody else so that they change and grow and make that investment and blow that investment
See, but
up
like,
as they go on with their
That's
life.
what I would rather, me come back in a year or two after my exchange, present to my club and be like, hey, this is what I've done after 2 years of like you guys sending me on this exchange.
And
this
it's
is,
really
like,
easy to do that.
what I still feel and
Yeah,
like
it's-
if I was
my club.
yeah, if
What's
I
that?
was
I still visit my club.
yeah.
Yeah,
And if I was a
that's-
supporting Rotarian, I'd want them to see I'd want to see the kid that I helped,
Yeah.
on their journey.
I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. The vast majority of clubs are not so well organized that they have their speaker schedule set 2 months in advance. All you got to do is call up the president, call up a contact and say, I'd like to share what I've experienced now that I've been back for 2 years.
They'd be like,
Oh, sure, what date? I mean,
Right now.
I kid you
Come in.
not. Yeah, and honestly, when you make that phone call, you should be ready to walk in the following day because they may throw you in the seat
Yeah,
right then and there.
and it's-
All you got to do is just reach it, and I say it for just this reason. All you have to do is ask the question. And unless you're in that one club out of 100 that already has an entire year booked out, which the vast majority of them I don't think do, you won't be sitting around long before you go and share that story of this. And I would even go so far as to say that, let's talk return on investment.
Yeah.
And just speak in that context, because this is what a lot of business people like to hear.
And I find that when clubs do either stop participating in youth exchange, it's because they either had a bad experience or they're not getting a return on it, and they do not understand it all.
Yeah, and I don't know, I just think it's like...
Here's a good one for you too. I'm
Ready.
sorry, just off the top of my head. What's the return on investment for a bunch of Rotary clubs getting involved in Munson, California, which you probably don't even know about, which is between Fresno and Tulare, and putting water purification systems in? What's the return on investment for you? Not a damn thing. But you did it anyways, didn't you? And should we go through the laundry list of how many things, how many ways that you invest in others and get nothing back in return?
Yeah.
We call that giving. That's not investment. That is
Rotary.
Yeah, that's kind of
That is Rotary.
That's Rotary.
This is our pitch.
I mean, I mean, but it kind of goes to that question.
Yeah.
It goes to that issue. There is no return on investment because you're giving. If
It totally makes sense, and that's kind of like what I was honestly asking, how to present that to people.
Yeah, so I would probably start with the return on investment, and then I would wrap it up. No, guys, the more I think about it, this is not a return on investment. This is what Rotary does. You give, and somebody else reaps the benefits later on down the road. Whether it's the Munson Water Project, where people that you don't know have purified water because the water is so crappy there. But you weren't involved in that. Oh, no, we have one club in Visalia. As soon as you come in there and ask, the first response is, how much do you need?
Yeah.
They're going to buy their way out of labor right off the bat. Good, we need the money. I'm not going to lie to you, I have no problem with that. There's other clubs that will get in and do the work and don't front the money.
On my outbound, one of our weekends, we groomed hiking trails and you remember that? We were in the mountains and they were like, hey, pull these invasive plants.
Yeah.
It's almost like Rotary clubs are like all contributing to this like stockpile of like positivity.
Exactly,
and
but
that is just kind of
lacking the action.
Dispersed kind of throughout.
Yeah.
Like ending diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That killed a lot of people.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Who?
Everyone, I don't know.
All right.
one word of something that you've gained on your years abroad, experiences abroad. One word.
Perspective.
Sense of self. Hyphenated. Sense of self.
I'd say confidence, but that's very basic. Understanding.
Empathy.
Insight.